It was one of those perfect Saturday mornings, the kind where the sun is just right, and there's a gentle breeze that makes any chore feel less like work. I was out on my front porch, tools laid out neatly on a mat, whistling a tune while I worked on changing the locks on my front door. It's a simple task, something I've done a dozen times. A little home security upgrade, a bit of peace of mind. I was just about to fit the new deadbolt into place when I heard it, the sound of rapid, angry footsteps stomping up my driveway. It was a sound I'd unfortunately come to recognize all too well. I looked up, and sure enough, there she was, Karen, the self-appointed queen of the Homeowners Association, marching toward me like a general leading a charge. She had her usual clipboard clutched to her chest like a shield, and a scowl that could curdle milk. "What do you think you're doing?" she shrieked, not even bothering with a hello. Her voice cut through the quiet morning like a siren. I calmly held up the new lock. "Morning, Karen. Just changing the locks," she scoffed, her eyes narrowing. "That is an unauthorized modification to the exterior of your property. Section C, Paragraph 4 of the HOA bylaws clearly states that all external hardware must be pre-approved by the committee." I sighed, trying to keep my patience. "Karen, it's a lock. It looks almost identical to the old one. It's a matter of personal security, not curb appeal." But reasoning with Karen is like trying to explain calculus to a cat. "It's a complete waste of time. I don't care," she screeched, her face turning a blotchy red. "You are in direct violation. Stop what you are doing immediately, or I will be forced to take action." I decided to stand my ground. This was my house, my front door, and my safety. "No, Karen," I said, my voice firm but even. "I'm not stopping. This is a reasonable and necessary task, and it doesn't violate any sensible rule." Her jaw dropped. She was not used to being told no. For a moment, she just stood there sputtering, searching for a new line of attack. Then, a truly malicious glint appeared in her eyes. "Fine," she hissed, whipping out her phone. "You forced my hand." She dramatically dialed 911. My eyes widened in disbelief. Was she seriously doing this? 911, what's your emergency? I could hear the operator's voice from her phone. Karen, putting on her most frantic damsel-in-distress voice, cried into the phone. "Help, there's a suspicious man trying to break into a house in the Maple Creek subdivision. He's tampering with the front door. I think he has tools. Please hurry, I'm scared for my safety." She gave them my address. My address. She was reporting me for breaking into my own home. I just stood there, a mix of stunned and furious. This had gone from a petty neighborhood squabble to something much more serious. Karen hung up the phone with a triumphant, evil little smirk. "The police are on their way," she said, crossing her arms. "Now you'll see what happens when you disrespect the rules and threaten this community." She was practically glowing with self-righteousness. She actually thought she had one. I decided not to say another word. There was no point. I just leaned against my door frame, picked up the screwdriver, and calmly went back to work on the lock. Every turn of the screw seemed to make her angrier, but she stayed silent, just glaring at me, waiting for her cavalry to arrive. It didn't take long. Within 5 minutes, I heard the wail of a siren growing closer. A police cruiser came speeding down our quiet street and screeched to a halt right in front of my house, lights flashing. Karen's smirk widened into a full-blown grin. This was her moment of victory. The car door opened, and a young, sharp-looking officer stepped out. He had a serious, no-nonsense look on his face as he surveyed the scene. Karen immediately marched over to him, pointing a trembling accusatory finger at me. "Officer, thank heavens you're here. That's him. He's the one he was trying to break in. Arrest him." The officer's eyes followed her finger and landed on me. I stopped my work, put the screwdriver down, and just looked at him, waiting. His professional, stern expression suddenly vanished. His eyes widened slightly in recognition. And then, in a motion that was so crisp and immediate it was almost comical, he snapped to attention and threw a perfect, sharp salute. "Commander," he said, his voice full of respect. "Good morning, sir. I didn't realize this was your address." The smirk on Karen's face didn't just fade, it evaporated. It was like watching a cartoon character who just realized they'd run off a cliff. Her mouth hung open, her eyes darted back and forth between me and the saluting officer. The color drained from her face, leaving her looking pale and ghostly. She looked like she was about to be sick. I gave the officer a small, appreciative nod. "Morning, Miller," I said calmly. "Everything's all right here. Just a small misunderstanding." Officer Miller relaxed his stance but kept a professional eye on Karen, "Sir. We received a 911 call about a break-in in progress at this location." I gestured with my head toward my front door. "As you can see, I'm just changing my locks. This is my house." I then looked at Karen, whose face was a beautiful portrait of pure, unadulterated panic. "My neighbor here," I said, with a slight emphasis on the word neighbor, "got a little overzealous about HOA regulations." The officer turned to Karen, and his friendly demeanor was gone. His face was stern once more. "Ma'am," he began, his voice low and serious. "Is it true that you called 911 to report a break-in because you had a dispute over an HOA rule?" Karen just stammered, unable to form a coherent sentence. "I hear the rules," I thought. Officer Miller cut her off. "Ma'am, do you have any idea who you just called the police on?" This is Commander Williams. He's my commanding officer. In fact, he's the head of the entire precinct. You called the cops on the chief of police. If it were possible for Karen to get any paler, she did. She looked from the officer to me and back again, her mind finally connecting the dots. The sheer horror of her mistake was written all over her face. She had tried to have her own police chief arrested over a doorknob. Officer Miller wasn't finished. Filing a false police report is a serious offense, ma'am. It wastes valuable time and resources that could be needed for a real emergency. We take that very, very seriously, do you understand? Karen could only manage a tiny, squeaky nod. She looked like she wanted the ground to open up and swallow her whole. I'm so sorry. I didn't know, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I won't do it again. See that you don't, Officer Miller said sharply. He then turned back to me, his expression softening again. Sorry for the disturbance, Commander. Is there anything else you need? I smiled. No, Miller, I've got it from here. Thanks for the quick response. He gave another quick nod, got back in his cruiser, and drove away, leaving a profound and wonderful silence in his wake. I turned my attention back to Karen. She stood frozen for a few seconds. Then, without another word, she turned and scurried away, not marching, but scurrying back to her own house. She didn't look back. I picked up my screwdriver and went back to my lock. As I gave the final screw a satisfying turn, making the new lock secure, I couldn't help but smile. The morning sun felt even warmer now. The breeze felt even nicer and my new lock felt incredibly secure. Some Saturdays are just more perfect than others. Thanks for listening to my story, and if you enjoyed it, please hit that like and subscribe button for more. See you next time.